Our goal in this lesson today is to put together everything we've learned so far about factoring and factor just about anything that is possible for us to factor. So here's our directions. To factor a polynomial, you'll first want to make sure that your terms are in descending order. So if you have an x to the third, it needs to go first, then the x to the second, then the x, and then no x's. If you have a mixture of x's and y's or a's and b's, just choose one of the variables and have it go in descending order. Then once you do that, you're going to always look for a GCF. So important. Always look for a GCF. And then after you remove the GCF, if there is one, you're going to count the terms. And if you have two terms, then you're going to think about whether it's going to be possible to factor this as the difference of squares. So I'm going to abbreviate that. It could be the difference of squares, and I'll go ahead and write that out, squares, and it's a difference. So look back and remind yourself what that means, or it could be the difference of cubes, so that'd be all right, little cubes there, or the sum of cubes. So remember, we can do both of those, and remember that that's one of the factoring patterns we had, where we had two terms in the first parentheses and three in the second. So you want to review that if you don't remember what that is. If we have three terms, then what we're always going to use is the AC method. And there's a few shortcuts that you can use if you're good at doing shortcuts. Then if we have four terms, what we'll do is we will group 2 and group 2. So I'm going to write that as group 2. Remember, I like to underline it in group 2. And we've learned all of these methods before, so it's just going to be a matter of recognizing and using them. We're going to learn a third method with the four terms in the very, very end of this assignment. And in that, we're going to group 3, and there's going to be a 1. I don't know if you'd call it grouping 1, but there'll be a group of 1 that we will do later on. All right, then the final thing you're going to ask yourself is, will any of these factors factor again? And typically, if that's going to happen, it's either going to be the difference of squares or the difference or sum of cubes. All right, so let's step through this. Example 1. You can see that it's lots of variables, but you can see the x to the fifth is first and the x to the second follows it. So it's in descending order. GCF for 9 and 72, 9 goes into both of those. I can see they both have the variable x, and the most I can take out of both of them would be 2. So I'm going to factor out the 9x squared GCF. And that's going to leave me with, if I take out 2, x to the third, y to the sixth, then minus 9 goes into 72 8 times, and I remove all the x's. Then I'm going to take a look at what I have left. And I am going to think, so I'm going to write down what I did here. I did first a GCF. And then next I'm going to look at this parentheses, just two terms. And the variable x to the third makes me think of a cube, and I think about y to the sixth, and I think I could write that too as a cube. So I'm going to kind of do this. This is going to be xy squared to the third power. So it's x to the third, and y squared to the third is going to be y to the sixth, and then minus 2 to the third. So I can see that that is going to be the difference of cubes. So let's factor it. So remember the rules. We're going to take that base of this, same sign, base of that's a 2. And once we do that, then I'm going to take the first one and square it. Ooh, it should have been a y squared right there. I'm going to take this and square it. So I'm going to have x squared, and then this will be y then to the fourth power. Then I'll do the opposite sign of this. This is a minus, so that's a plus. I'm going to multiply these two things together, my two terms, and get a 2xy squared. Always plus in this spot, and then 2 squared is 4. I'll look again and make sure that this can't be factored, but if not, x is not a square, and 2 is not a square. So I am finished, and this is my very long answer. Now let me just warn you, if you looked at this answer in the back and tried to look at it and work backwards, it is not going to happen. You must follow the steps.